6.8 feet for Sergeant Flores. The 12th round is attributed to Officer Alejandro. I'm sorry, 7.8 feet. Do you recall if that's Officer Alejandro is the one standing outside the patio?
Yes.
Okay. In the position of Ms. Perez's body, is that where she ultimately comes to rest?
It's an approximation from looking at the body-worn camera of officers that entered through the back, or in Officer Villalobos when he enters as well.
All right. Round 13, which is also attributed to Officer Alejandro. Now, his distance when that was fired increased from 7.8 feet to 8.3. Is that because it appears Ms. Perez's body position is slumped more inside the living room?
I believe so, yes.
So she moves away from him.
Yes, we're measuring to her chest.
Shot 14. 14 is attributed to Officer Villalobos. Now, between shots 13 and shots 14, the hammer, which I understand to be in her right hand, that is more pronounced.
So the reason it's shown as an outline, we can't see what's happening here. It's behind the wall. So we're just animating to her rest position, and so we don't know exactly what's going on there. So the hammer is not, it's just an approximation of where she is in the scene.
And how does the software generate those approximations?
It's not the software necessarily. Remember when we were showing how we were animating a body by moving their limbs? Same thing here. We're taking the last known position and then interpolating back to her rest position, just creating that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you go back to shot 13?
Sure.
Okay. I understand what you said, but you see in shot 13 when you measure that distance from Ms. Perez's body to the wall, okay, and we all know the hammer's in her right hand, but that's not pronounced.
Because it's covered by a line, is that what you mean?
Well, even before the line, it's closer to her body up against the wall. I guess my
Yeah, what was your question?
13 and 14.
Yes.
So at 14, you said you can't see it, and I'm just wondering, what's the criteria? Is there any editorializing? Why is the hammer so pronounced in something you say we can't see?
It wasn't meant to be pronounced. It's just like I said, from a known position to a rest position, just interpolation between it. It's just an approximation.
Understand?
Yeah.
And what's the criteria that goes into making those type of approximations?
Like I said, I know where she is last time we see her, and then we see her in a rest position from body-worn camera, and there's a motion from one to the other.
All right. And so in the next body-worn camera you can see her on is once Officer Villalobos, Officer Thompson looks over the window, they look inside and identify.
Actually, some other officers who are coming through the back.
Okay.
Yep.
So those were the first videos that gave you the ability to approximate?
Yes.
All right. You would advance it to shot to Officer Villalobos. His distance is 7 foot. If anything, he's moved backwards from shot 13, or is that the effect of her approximately falling forward? He was 6.9 feet on 13. He's now 7 feet on 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
At this point, I think we're just measuring to that same point.
All right.
Yeah.
just noticed another difference, 15, and again, this is coming from officers entering the room. The discrepancy between Ms. Perez's body at 15 and at 14,
Yes.
because 14 is one that has the hammer pronounced, now we don't see it anymore at 15, do we?
Right. It must be in part of that, the part of her body that's occluded. See how it's moving? It's now like on her, near her knee. We don't know the motion here, so we're just, like I said, interpolating, and that's why she's in a silhouette. We just know generally where she is in that area.
Is interpolation another word for a guess?
No, it's like an average. You're going from one point to the other, the average.
All right.
Yeah.
You said that you knew her position because you had body-worn footage of officers entering the living area from the back. My recollection is they got there about the same time Officer Villalobos enters through the front.
I think approximately, yes.
Okay, so that interpretation here clearly shows Officer Villalobos, he hasn't completed his shots, has he?
Yeah, and I don't know if we've actually, if we play forward, I think she might even move a little bit more, but.
Okay. But, well, if he hadn't completed his shots, other officers haven't come in the back, how are you getting the data to do this, to have this presentation?
Are you talking about Ms. Perez's?
Yes, sir.
So, as I explained.
Go right ahead.
Oh, as I explained, so last time we see her, we have that called a keyframe. And then the next time we see her from the back, there's a keyframe there, and we're interpolating between those 2 points.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you understand my concern, because I know that from what you testified, the data would come from, we know Officer Villalobos, Thompson, Flores, when they enter, and that you testified from the officers entering the living area coming from the back hallway. Correct?
Yes, yes.
And so, at this point, in just off what you presented, Villalobos has not entered the room. We're still in the middle of shots being fired.
That's correct.
And so I'm only questioning how you made the interpretation which shows the changes in Ms. Perez's body. You understand what I'm asking?
I believe so, but if you could restate it one more time.
Well, help me help you. What is the point that I'm not making clear? What is it? What information do you need me to say to be able to answer?
Judge, that's speculation. I object.
I'm asking him what he needs.
Overruled.
I guess if you could just ask me the question one more time.
Okay. We are at shot 15, correct?
Yes,
We know there's 16 rounds fired, correct?
correct.
From all the body cam footage, we know that it is after the shots are fired that Officer Villalobos kicks in the glass, opens the door, and enters the living room, correct?
Correct.
It is about that time as he's entering the room, Officers Chernick, Rojas, Ramos come in from the back hallway, correct?
Okay, yes.
I understand all of those officers are wearing body cams. That gives you known points. Those cameras, the logos from the patio, Chernick and them, after shots are fired.
Yes.
Okay. You have testified on shot 14, the one where the hammer is pronounced and detailed in our right hand, that you made those approximations from other body-worn camera footage, correct?
Again, it's a when we can see her, the last keyframe that we can see her, and then we know where her rest position is.
Yes, sir.
So it's just an automatic interpolation.
Okay. Yes, sir. I understand that. if you could go back to 13.
13.
Because if it's the last keyframe, how do you explain the movement? If it's the last keyframe, why isn't she in the same position?
So the last keyframe we see her being fired upon, we know what her body is doing. We know she's standing up, and then the next keyframe we can see her in, she's in her rest position. So she has to go from it's point A to point B.
Yes, sir.
Is that
So at 13, I take your word, she's laying against water, rest position, correct?
13? No,
Yes, sir.
I
It's
don't.
there right here. You
Right.
see shot 13.
She's maybe at this point she's buckling down. Again, these are approximations. This is interpolation.
I understand that.
Okay.
But as you, none of the officers that are visible can see her, can they?
Officer Alejandro can see her back.
On his body cam,
Body camera. Yes, we see it in his body camera. Yes.
I believe we can't really see Alejandro's body cam. I think you may mean Thompson's body cam.
You might be right.
Okay. So then is your testimony that what we see overhead in shot 13 is more likely off Officer Thompson's body cam?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Advance to 14. Now, officers still have not entered the apartment. If the last known data point came from what could be Officer Thompson's body cam, why does it appear to be different if you don't have any additional data points? Is your testimony saying that Officer Thompson's body cam shows that hammer extended like that?
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's where I think you maybe we're not communicating. The hammer. We don't see the hammer.
Okay. Would you agree with me that that object right there that I circled
Right.
is not visible on shot 13?
Yeah, I understand your trouble with this. So in 13, you see a hammer still?
Can we clear that? Yes. Is that your red mark? Do you put that red mark there on 13?
What do you mean? Just now?
Yes, sir.
No.
All right. So, okay, that's your measurement of the distance. And yes, I see what appears to be, I would call a hammer up against the wall.
Sure.
All right? Go to 14. You see how I move?
Yes.
Is there another known point in 14? That's all I'm asking.
I don't recall, but I believe you can still see her back through Thompson's camera.
Okay. We'll move on.
Okay.
15. And presumably you have a data point to reflect this change in position.
Again, we can't see her here. There's
Okay. But if there, so you can't see her, that means there's no known data points, correct?
correct, except for her back in the previous one. Yeah.
Okay. So if there are no additional data points, how do you explain what appears to the eye to be movement in her body if you don't have known data points?
Judge, I object, asked and answered.
Yeah.
The interpolation has been said.
All right, I'll allow this one.
Okay. Okay, help me understand then the
Sure, I'll try.
interpolation if you
Yes.
don't have known data points.
Interpolation is just going from one point to the other, right? So and if you have two frames close together, you don't have interpolation. If you spread them apart and we don't know the middle, we can go from this point. It's just point A to point B.
Okay, so you know where she is to start, you know. Okay. in the previous, the chart you had back, I think it might have been 12 rates, is there a standard for the interpolation with your software?
I don't know what that means.
Well,
Slide 38.
No, I mean, I don't know what you mean by a standard.
you said interpolation,
Yes.
okay? How do you define interpolation in this context with this software?
We're keyframing her position the last time we see it, keyframing the last position in her rest position, and then animating her body just to go down.
Next known point when you finally have coverage.
Yes.
And all these interpolations occur at a constant rate.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Predictable.
It'll be a linear rate, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you would advance to shot 16. And is this based off another interpolation?
Yes.
Then is the approximation of Ms. Perez's point of view, is that follow this frame, or is that a separate?
The approximation of what? I'm sorry.
You recall the chart where you showed Melissa Perez's point of view?
Yes.
Is that at the end of this volley, or is that another chart?
I believe it's the next slide.
It's slide 79.
I don't have my thing here. Sorry, I got it. Ms. Perez's. I just have it. Christian, I'm locked out again. Sorry.
Yes.
I guess it's on one side, but
I think it's one more, right?
yeah. This keeps getting locked up. Or not locked up.
Let's try this.
I don't know why.
It's all right. Try this guy here.
When it goes to sleep.
Ah. Should we just restart your PowerPoint here? Do you have it on your desktop?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's X out of it and restart it. Now we're cooking.
What was it? 78.
What slide was it, Tom?
79.
79.
Thank you.
You got it.
Or, 79 or 80. Those two.
Sorry.
And could you go ahead and play the embedded video?
Yes.
And just so I understand, the video that we show here, does it start when she's in that hallway as a known point based on all the cameras that can see her?
Yes.
All right. And then for those cameras that can track her as she moves towards the door, that's how we get that movement that we see in the video, and she closes distance with Sergeant Flores?
I want to answer correctly, so can you repeat that question?
Okay. We started that I think we all remember the posture you have when she's standing square shouldered before she begins to move toward. Because Sergeant Flores, we have it, you can see her off his body camera, and there are other known points that you can compare what Flores sees with known points in the apartment.
Correct.
And as you have a video, you project how she moves, correct?
The way you said it is a little weird.
Okay, correct.
So yeah, triangulation. We can see it from different cameras, so we know where say her head is at that point in time.
All right. And you made it, you were able to construct a video, correct?
Correct.
She's moving all those known standards, the X's you had on inside and outside in your presentation, those are known points, right?
Correct.
Okay, so as she moves to each of these known points, generate this video.
It's part of it. Yes.
Okay. And all that video shows is the science between what we can see of Ms. Perez on body cam as she moves towards those known points, correct?
It shows the point of view from her head.
I understand.
Yeah.
Based on where we can see her, we see her facing Sergeant Flores, and again, you've got body cam that is tracking her to the known points.
Yes. I guess the best way to say it is we reconstructed her motion by using the body-worn camera and photogrammetry, and now we're just viewing it from a different place, which is her head.
All right, and that is my point. So all this is just math.
Yes.
A presentation of math.
Yes.
You don't have anything to question her intent or her motive. You don't know any of that, do you?
I do not.
Now approach the witness, Your Honor.
Yes.
Sir, we've already looked at State's Exhibit. I'm also showing you States 199 through 210 for identification. The States 199 through 210 fairly and accurately capture the distance and the measurements that your presentation includes for the second volley, shots 7 through 16, as you have previously presented it on direct exam
I'll take a
to
look.
the jury. Please.
It was all these.
Yes, sir.
I believe so. Appears to be.
And much as your presentation, do you believe States 198 through 2010 would help the jury understand the evidence?
Objection. 2010. I don't think we're up there.
Would assist trier fact to help understand your testimony?
Judge, I have no objection to states 198 through 210. Concurrently, I would offer defense 126 at this time under optional completeness, the entirety of the presentation. Don't just give the jury one piece of the pie, give them the whole pie.
No objection, Judge.
All right, it's admitted.
And where's defense what?
126.
No further questions, Your Honor. We pass the witness.
Nothing further for Mr. Lelaglu. May he step down, Judge?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Although just a logistical request. Mr. Lelaglu has to, I'm gonna say this very delicately, on the laptop. So can we find him a position, maybe somewhere in the well, so he can work the laptop while Dr. Martinelli calls on certain frames and things from the part?
There, he's your expert. You can put him wherever you want.
Sure. Thank you. And we would next call Dr. Ron Martinelli to sit.
I'm plugging that from. Thank you so much. Thank you. Alex?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I'm going to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you may need to adjust the microphone to make sure everybody can hear you. To the jury and spell your name for the court reporter.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Ron, R-O-N, Martinelli, M-A-R-T-I-N-E-L-L-I, like the apple juice.
Doctor, how are you presently employed?
I'm a forensic criminologist.
If you could detail for the members of the jury, I guess let's start with experience. When does your experience begin in law enforcement?
In 1975, I had my first law enforcement assignment. I'm originally from California, so all of my law enforcement experience comes from California. And the first assignment with the Redwood City Police Department, medium-sized agency. I retired from the San Jose Police Department, which is a very large agency. And then I spent, just a little bit under 3 years with the Morro, M-O-R-R-O, Bay Police Department on the Central Coast of California.
Could you just detail for the members of the jury over the course of your law enforcement career the types of divisions or assignments you had?
Yes, I began in uniform patrol, and then after a couple of years, I went up to the Bureau of Investigations as a detective in the BOI. I have to get a little bit closer.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the microphone's working.
Oh. Pretty good. In BOI, I handled crimes against persons, crimes against property. Started out in the juvenile unit with child abuse and neglect. I was the department's first gang investigator, so I handled anything that was involving juveniles, including street gang homicides and juvenile homicides. I worked fraud, I worked computer crime, came back down after a rotation, worked in patrol in tactics. It was a very proactive patrol, basically looking for bad guys. And I had an where I was a robbery decoy, also a prostitution decoy. As a robbery decoy, my job 4 days a week and working with a five-person team was to basically get robbed a week. And then cycled out of that, became a field training officer, then I became a field training supervisor, coordinated our national model field training program for the San Jose Police Department. Actually, I was one of 3 coordinators taught at the San Jose Police Academy and also in our regional law enforcement academy. So I have interesting assignments.
Do you have any high-risk entry experience?
Yes, quite a bit. I've made probably over 100 high-risk entries, and I've also taught SWAT teams on high-risk entries.
Could you summarize for the members of the jury next your educational background?
Sure. This all happened, the first part of it happened before I was a police officer. So I started out at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo, and in physical education with my major in exercise physiology and pre-medical studies. Then later, once I was a police officer, I picked up a couple of master's degrees in public and justice administration. Later on, I picked up a doctorate degree in criminology with emphasis in forensic psychology. I have about 1,600 hours of medical training and certified as a medical investigator at the physician's level, but non-diagnostic because I'm a PhD, not an MD or a PSYD.
Have you ever held any teaching or instructor assignments?
Yes, I started out actually before I was a cop, I was a high school teacher. And then once I became a police officer, I taught, like I said, at the academy. Then I also was an instructor at De Anza College, teaching pre-service studies, which is administration of justice and corrections. And then I became a professor, and I've been an adjunct professor at several universities, California State Polytechnic University, where I taught advanced criminology, Argosy University, where I taught forensic psychology, and National University, where I taught in the master's program in forensic science. And there's been a few other collateral assignments. I'm also a visiting instructor at the University of California, Davis School of Law, where I teach seminars once a year on laws of arrest, search and seizure, the use of force, and deadly force in a law enforcement environment.
Thank you, Doctor. And could you summarize for the members of the jury your experience as a police instructor with both the police and the military?
Sure. Like I said, I think I've been involved in instruction of law enforcement and military personnel for about 46 years now. I know I look much younger, but anyway, so my pre-service, well, it's all in service. So let's talk about laws of arrest and search and seizure, criminal procedures, criminal investigations, aspects of forensics, and behavioral science, where I taught criminal psychological profiling of serial killers and sexual predators. I had an adjunct assignment as a visiting instructor at Naval Special Warfare on the West Coast, teams 1, 3, and 5, where I was a hand-to-hand combat instructor and taught SEALs. I taught the instructor SEAL school in. I've probably, over the years, conservatively, probably taught well over 80,000 peace officers, criminal justice people, and military personnel from all branches of the services. And I've taught over 350 agencies nationally and internationally, and have consulted with a variety of agencies. And I'm Italian, so I have done a little bit of consulting with the Carabinieri, which are the Italian National Police.
Do you hold any professional licenses?
About 30. So we talked about the medical certification. I'm also board certified in forensic trauma, which is emotional and psychological trauma, National Center of Crisis Management, and the American Academy of Experts in Traumatic Stress. I hold instructor certificates and master instructor certificates in every component in this particular case: laws of arrest, search and seizure, de-escalation, all the less lethal weaponry, meaning the electronic weaponry, the taser, impact weapons, less lethal shotgun. I'm also a firearms instructor for rifle, pistol, and shotgun.
Can I jump in there?
Sure.
Some of the things you mentioned, arrest, search and seizure, de-escalation, the human factors, have you written or you published in any of these areas?
In all of these areas. So I literally wrote the book on de-escalation and tasers and firearms. I probably have published about 35 different manuals in all areas that we've talked about, and quite a few more. Wrote 5 books on street gangs and street gang investigations, and I've written tons of articles. We had Lieutenant Machat come over and talk to you about the Tueler drill. I literally wrote the article on that, and we're going to talk about some psychophysiology today. We're going to talk about something called the OODA loop. I have a recent article in Police Chief Magazine discussing the OODA loop, and Police Chief Magazine is probably the preeminent law enforcement journal in the United States.
Have you been accepted in court as an expert before?
Yes, many times.
Okay. Would it be over the same subject matter the members of the jury are considering here today?
Yes, and most of the time I live in federal court, so qualified in all of these areas and many more areas in federal court, and also here in the state of Texas and in a number of other jurisdictions in the United States, because myself and my firm have a national presence throughout the country.
And when you do testify, are you able to tell the members of the jury between these two tables here is what I'm gesturing to in my left hand, do you have a percentage or a split for which side you testify for?
Well, I testify in all areas. So doing what a forensic criminologist does, we testify in both criminal and civil courts. And so I've testified in criminal court for the prosecution and the defense, and in civil court for plaintiffs in civil rights cases, and also defending agencies and officers. My last homicide testimony in an officer-involved shooting was for the prosecution at the Riverside County District Attorney's Office, where I testified against a deputy in an officer-involved shooting. He was subsequently convicted of that crime, and I think I did that in August.
Okay. Have you ever testified against officers from the San Antonio Police Department?
Yes, on 2 prior occasions. I had a case called, and these were both in federal court, by the way. They were civil rights violations and excessive force cases. One case was called Castro versus the city of San Antonio, and the other one was called Carlos versus the city of San Antonio. And I was the prevailing expert in both of those cases, where plaintiffs found against the city and the officers involved in those cases.
And in the present case, have you been retained to review the evidence and render some expert opinions?
In this particular case?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I was actually retained. We start out with criminal defense attorneys that are subcontracted by CLEAT, and I think we've already talked about what CLEAT is basically a legal defense consortium for officers in the state of Texas. And so I believe I was contacted by the LaHood law firm, and then approval was given by CLEAT, and I've worked a number of officer-involved shootings on behalf of CLEAT.
And what specifically, Doctor, were you asked to review in this case?
What we call the murder book are all of the discovery evidence involved in this case that you've been hearing over the last 4 weeks. So I've reviewed the police reports, the initial diagram, the transcripts, a little bit of the grand jury, of course, all the BWC or body-worn camera, all the recorded media evidence in this case, and everything that the other witnesses have discussed.
Can you explain to the members of the jury what fact pattern reconciliation is?
Sure. And as an investigator, you know, you have detectives, and detectives have testified. I'm a forensic investigator, so I'm a guy that forensic investigator. So in other words, I look at the fact pattern in terms of what we can support or not support through the use of applied science. So when counsel is talking about fact pattern reconciliation, it's good to understand that every critical incident such as this is comprised of 5 separate components: information, circumstances, statements, facts, and forensic evidence. So there's 5 of them. The job of the investigator, like detectives, is to take a look at all of that information. You've heard the term totality of circumstances, and to determine what expectations of the involved parties in the case. In this case, police officers and detectives that investigated this case. So I don't make credibility determinations. That's your job. My job is to take a look at all of the evidence with science, with a scientific methodology that is the standard in my career path, and use other scientists and other findings and opinions to a reasonable degree of professional reliability.
In reaching the conclusions you have in this case, did you rely upon and use 3D photogrammetry in your analysis?
Yes, as Mr. Lelaglu has already testified to, this is a very important scientific standard in the field of forensic investigation, analysis, and fact pattern reconciliation.
And is that the standard in your industry used amongst experts, that you would use and rely upon that as a critical component of your fact pattern reconciliation?
Yes, when we find in taking a look at the fact pattern of the case, if we determine that certain types of information that could be accurized would be important and even critical for rendering determinations, such as measurements, speeds, time, and also the enhancement of recorded media, then that is the standard that we use throughout the nation and even internationally.
Before we start referring to the exhibits and getting into our discussion, can you explain to the members of the jury confirmation and implicit bias in their respects, or how they affect the case investigation?
Sure, and I've written about these two things in regards to criminal investigations and analysis. So a confirmation bias would be someone that looks at something, has a preconceived notion, whether it's correct or not, and then they insert that bias into their investigation and their findings and opinions. Implicit bias is something that is more of a subconscious bias that the investigator may not even be aware of, but they are introducing that implicit bias into their investigation to sort of mold the investigation using confirmation bias and implicit bias to mold that investigation in a way that they believe the desired outcome should be, regardless of what the facts and evidence may show.
And in the present case, did you review Detective Soto's investigation and testimony?
I did.
And do you have an expert opinion as to if either of these implicit or confirmation biases were present as exhibited by Detective Soto?
Yes, I found that both were profuse throughout the investigation.
Okay, Doctor, I guess what I'm going to transition to next is the stimulus.
mind if I look over this way so I can look at my screen?
To be, just get directly to the point, do you have an opinion on whether the force Melissa Perez was using with her hammer, was it lawful or unlawful force?
It was unlawful.
Okay. Do you have an opinion on whether Melissa Perez, with her hammer, presented an actual threat of unlawful force capable of serious bodily injury?
Yes, I would actually go beyond that. It was not only an actual factual threat, but it was an imminent threat. And there's a difference between a potential threat and an imminent threat.
Okay. Same question, but presenting an actual or imminent threat for serious bodily injury or death.
That's correct. Because the hammer, even though it's a tool, it's an instrument, we would refer to it as a bludgeon capable of causing serious bodily injury or death if it was inflicted upon another person.
And so, when faced with that stimulus, okay, I want to go into the science here for the jury. When faced with that stimulus, I want to talk about psychophysiology and start with what happens to the human body when faced with an actual and imminent threat.
Sure. This is fun stuff. So the body always wants to protect itself. And so when faced with what we refer to as an acute life threat, the body instantaneously, from the brain throughout the body, brain gives a trigger mechanism and dumps what we refer to as survival chemicals into it. So that's completely involuntary. You don't have any control of the dump. And what is being dumped in these survival chemicals are stimulants such as adrenaline, right, epinephrine, right, and then pain blockers, which are referred to as endorphins or dopamine. And dopamine is a euphoric pain blocker. Also, the brain signals the adrenal glands, and it dumps something that you probably see sometimes on TV commercials called cortisol, right? And that's the sympathetic part of the body, the way it works. And what it does is it prepares the body for combat. It prepares it to address the threat, and then there's a sequence that happens once the body begins to address the threat.
Okay. Applying that science to what we see, what is this? Frame 1471, which would be 20211 from the body-worn camera, as I'm sure the jury has memorized at this point. Do you have an opinion as to whether Sergeant Flores would be experiencing these physiological effects at that moment in time?
Yes, as soon as an individual would have observed and experienced the threat, police officer or not, we're all going to act kind of the same way, except police officers have specialized training, of course. And the brain is immediately going to engage that process of survival chemicals going into the body and preparing the body to address this threat in one way or another. And so the other things, and I think it's already been touched on here, is that when these chemicals are inside your body, it impacts you both psychologically and physiologically. And so we talked about, for instance, tunnel vision. And so normally, a human being in a relaxed state can sense movement going out to about 180 degrees. Sense it, not necessarily see it and focus on it, but they can sense it. But once the pressure and by the way, when the stimulant goes into your body, it raises what we refer to as your basal, B-A-S-A-L, metabolic rate. And that's measured by respiration, blood pressure, and heart rate. And so all of that is elevated, instantaneously elevated. And when your body becomes pressurized, not only your blood but your fluids, it affects your vision. And so, for instance, you refer to it as tunnel vision. The medical term is perceptual narrowing. But what happens is we go from 180 degrees all the way down to about 10 degrees. So you've got the center 5 degrees to one side and 5 degrees to the other, so you can lose up to 170 degrees of your vision. And we refer to it as an island of vision surrounded by a sea of blindness. So that's the tunnel vision. And for an officer in the sympathetic phase, they on the threat which is the weapon to them. Actually, the whole person constitutes the threat, but they tend to often look at that weapon, a knife, a hammer, a gun, whatever. The next thing that will happen, and this has also been mentioned, is they will experience auditory occlusion, which is a diminished hearing, or auditory exclusion, which is a complete loss of hearing. So things like an officer may be yelling at you, watch out, or he's got a gun, or whatever, not hear that whatsoever. And so those are two of the things that happen. Another thing that can happen is something referred to as vasoconstriction, vessel constriction. And so, again, the body's trying to prepare itself for shock and trauma, and so we're kind of prehistoric in a way. And what it does is it pulls the blood and fluid more towards the center of the body, right? So the center yoke of the brain and the center of the body, and your blood and fluid start leaving your extremities and going to the center. But what happens with vasoconstriction is it makes it very difficult to hang on to things. So like hang on to a gun, or hang on to a canister of pepper spray, or a baton or something like that. You can fumble around. You can have problems exchanging magazines or dropping magazines or doing some of the tactical things that police officers are trained all the time. So while all of that stuff's going on, then the body has to go through the decision-making process.
Okay, cool. I don't like to spoil the surprises we have coming up, so I don't want to go into that. I just want to ask you, at this point right here, Sergeant Flores, were you able to do a scientific data analysis comparing Sergeant Flores' behaviors with observable, measurable behaviors in that process you just referred to? And let's just name it the ODA loop.
Yes. So thanks to Mr. Lalaglu, our photogrammetrist and our audio videologist, we were able to synchronize and isolate and count frames and do time studies and distance relationships. Council has mentioned an acronym referred to as the ODA loop, O-O-D-A. And what it stands for is observe, orient, decide, and act. And those are the 4 components of response to a life threat stimulus.
Okay, Doctor. So our acronym ODA, observe, orient, decide, and act. Can you tell us, is this a common term, a scientifically accepted term, principle in your industry?
Sure. The term ODA loop was actually developed by an Air Force fighter pilot back in the late 70s by the name of John Boyd. From his training in Vietnam and fighter experience, Major Boyd came up with a way to train fighter pilots so they could be successful in combat. Now, in medicine and psychophysiology, we refer to this as action, reaction, perception, lag time. But for law enforcement and military, they like to use acronyms, and ODA loop sounds kind of cool, and so we use that term ODA loop, which really helps the officers in their training to get it a lot quicker. And so there are 4 separate components that the human being goes through when they have a stimulus of a life threat. And the first thing is observe. And observe means experiencing the threat. So they have to maybe see it, hear it, feel it, sense it, and so that's the observation thing. The next section is orientation. So, just like you, if you were outside and you heard gunshots, but you couldn't see anybody shooting, but you heard gunshots, probably what's going to go in your mind is you're going to kind of double check what you heard. You're going to check in with yourself. Is that a firecracker? Is that a car, with a bad muffler? Or is that an actual gunshot? That is referred to as the orientation phase. So in the case of an officer, and in these officers, they are seeing what they perceive to be an acute life threat, a person with a hammer, and they're going to observe that, and then they are going to orientate towards whether that's a potential, whether it's no threat at all. Am I really seeing what I'm seeing? Or is it a potential threat or an imminent threat? And that's the orientation phase. And it takes a certain amount of time to go through that, and there are many, many, many vetted, peer-reviewed studies. I've done research and I've written on this topic myself, and we have an average time in our research on how long it takes someone to go through the observation to orientation phase.
Okay, and doctor, what is that scientifically accepted average for observe and orient during the experience of that threat?
And it's been mentioned by Lieutenant Machaca too. It's about 0.56 seconds, so just a tad over a half a second.
Now, during observe and orient, we have our scientific average of 0.56 seconds, half a second. How is the orientation phase affected with, say, a moving target?
That's a great question. So we go back to vision, and remember we talked about the tunnel vision, right? Perceptual narrowing. But also what happens is because the officer has to concentrate on what they're seeing, and if that threat is moving, then we go through something called saccades. And saccades are rapid eye movements, so that the eye is like bouncing in and out and back and forth and trying to capture accurately that threat. And that can actually slightly retard the orientation phase. And it can retard it by up to, on average, about 0.2 of a second.
So that would be 0.20 more that we would be adding to
Correct.
the scientific average.
Correct.
Okay.
Judge, let's go ahead and take a quick break.
All right, Jerry. May be seated.
Sir?
How we doing?
Doing great.